Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne Highlander, National Sales Manager for Bona Abrasives.
And I'm Rob Johnson from Bona Training.
Hello, Rob.
How you doing, bud?
Doing okay.
Are you?
No.
I didn't think so.
I am. I could go years without getting sick. I've been sick 3 times this year. I don't know what's going on, but whatever. So my voice is a little bit hoarse and my nose is running, and so I apologize for that.
Tell us more. Tell us more. Nose is running. Your body aches, headache.
You want me to get more graphic than that?
It's definitely more graphic. It's not me. I think the audience wants to.
No, I really don't think you do.
More graphic.
Yeah. I'm out here and I got to tell you. Can I tell you a fishing story?
Love to.
We caught something that I don't think any other fisherman has ever caught before, ever. I fished for 2 days at Trinity Lake. If anybody knows California, Trinity Lake is, if there's a prettier lake in California, I haven't seen it. And it has to be in the top 5 bass fisheries in the country, and it is the best kept secret there is. You won't see 10 boats on the lake all day, and it's a huge lake. The fishing is out of this world. And I was fishing with an incredible fisherman. I mean, he is just unreal how good he is.
Was there a mirror in the boat?
No, I'd love to say that I'm better than him. As a matter of fact, most things I learned from bass fishing, I learned from him.
Wow.
Or yeah, either from him or indirectly through him. The guy's, he's incredible. But so on the way home, it's a long drive through the mountains to get out of there. And then once you get there, you get into Redding. And at Redding, we had a stoplight, maybe, for a minute or so. I don't even think it was a minute, the stoplight. And then we take off again. We got another 15 miles to get to a restaurant, right? We're going to get something to eat. And a lady passes him and honks the horn. We're pulling the boat. She honks at the horn and she points at him. And I thought, well, did he cut her off? He goes, I don't think I cut her off, no big deal. So we go on another 15 or 20 miles or so before we get to the restaurant, right? We get out of the truck to walk to the restaurant. I just happen to look in the boat, catch my eye. There's a grown man hiding in the boat. He's face down in the lowest part of the boat. It's a bass boat. And he's his arms and, covering his head, like in a corner, like,
So this is a bass boat.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of places to hide in a bass boat. They're kind of flat tops.
No. His head was down where the pedals are, where the if you're using one of the so the guy I'm with points at him. He's like, what the hell? So I say, hey, partner, what are you doing? And he looks up, shocked, like, I don't know, man. I just, it's not a get it ride with you. I said, get the hell out of the boat. What's the matter with you? So he gets out and he starts running. I mean, obviously he's got a drug problem,
How old was he?
About 35 years old.
Oh my! How is it that this stuff happens to you?
You know how shocking.
You are a lightning rod for weirdness, man.
I was a passenger. I wasn't driving. It was just I was just a passenger.
You were around it though. You attracted.
But
so how long do you think he was in the boat? Was he?
I think when that lady pointed at us, she probably saw him jump in the boat.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought they'd been driving around for days with this guy.
So we took him 25 miles down the road altogether, probably. And the guy that I'm with, he's very, he's really pretty keened in because, you're towing a bass boat, he'll have as many 15 rods on the deck of the boat. And before some guy will come up at a gas station, not to him, but other bass boats, they'll jump out of the car at a stoplight, grab the rods and take off because you're not going to be able to catch him in that, And the guy I fish with has got the best of everything. I mean, he's got the best of everything. So he's very aware of that. So we're both shocked that we never saw it happen. So anyhow, I don't think there's too many people that went fishing, got a 145, 150 pound man. So,
or at least one that's alive.
I know. So we're going to talk about Sandpaper today. And you know, and I think one of the reasons why this sandpaper is an important component of the sand and finish world, even more so than it was in the past, is like we said, when it comes to things like the power drive, and the game has really changed. I mean, I was just talking a couple days ago with an old school floor guy about how we used to hand sand, and where we edge and all those different things, and how much the game has changed, and you know, so a sequence of grits and sandpaper and taking care of your sandpaper, and when you consider cost and everything, sandpaper is a big component when you add it up over the a span of a year. You know, and that doesn't go for, if your career is 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, you know, it's good to have an understanding of sandpaper more than just, I know what 40 grit does, I know what 60 grit does, and blah, blah, blah. And you are this is in your domain. So I'm interested in learning what you have to say about it.
Well,
And
you know, when you just said that, I was thinking, out of a sand and finish job, your three biggest costs, your number one cost, of course, is going to be labor. Number two is probably going to be finish, and sandpaper's got to be number three, right?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely up there. I never really even considered that. I think a lot of people might be like that too, not considering where sandpaper fits into the cost of your jobs. I mean, really, I think it's number three.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for, Rob. Yeah. It has to be number three. Wood filler's in there, but it's not going to be as expensive as sandpaper.
Not like paper. Yeah.
Stain is going to be up there, but it is well, let's put it this way. It's in the top 5. And if you consider, like I said, a year's span of time, 2 years, 5, 10, the whole career, it would behoove of us all to dive into it a little bit more than just on what we pick up at the counter or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing right off the bat, maybe we can talk about storage of sandpaper, because I think this is a big deal, and especially for people that live in rainy, humid climates. Storing the sandpaper in the boxes, between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 40 to 50% relative humidity. Above that, sandpaper, I don't care whose sandpaper it is, it affects the paper, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
It affects the cut. It affects productivity. And avoiding extreme temperature and humidity changes, I think, as well. So, we talk about acclimation. There's a lot of things go into acclimation more than just wood. And decreased humidity also causes the paper to shrink on the backing. So there's some things to be considered there.
So when you're talking about storage and it getting too moist, too wet, yeah, it'll work, but it's just not going to go as far.
Yeah.
You really, if you take that little extra time, and I used to kind of blow this off in the schools a little bit, like I never stored sandpaper. I kept it out in the truck no matter what. And well, I know that I lost some paper by not paying attention to those things. And now with the cost of everything,
yeah,
you got to be on point with this stuff.
Well, that's why sometimes I see people take it out of the original box and throw the box away and what have you. It's actually keep the box. They're great to store it in. Don't put the boxes on concrete or steel. You want to get some air circulation through there. Like you said, it'll still work. Of course, it'll still work, but you're not going to get the life out of it, the life expectancy, or the cut that you would probably expect to get from it. Speaking generically, keep it out of direct sunlight and keep it away from moisture sources. You know what I mean? If it's in the van, it's been wet and rainy, and the van's open or what have you, or the storage facility is open to the elements, it definitely affects the paper. And here's the thing that I think, I don't know if a lot of people, I think a lot of people know this, but there's equally amount of people that don't know this. When you're storing belts, don't nest the belts. Keep the splice under tension, right? I mean, when you put the belt back together, like for instance, when I got done with, let's say I sanded a 250 square foot kitchen, okay? And that belt still got a lot of life to it. I would always take a Sharpie on the inside of the belt, a red Sharpie, and I write 250 on it. That means, okay, pick it up again. I don't have to guess. Okay, I sanded 250 square feet with this. I know it. But when I put the belt back in the box, I put the the splice under tension, right? Now don't put a crease in it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing when that I do with my belts when I'm sanding is, you're gonna get 600-700 feet out of a belt if you treat it right. I like to go around maybe 400 feet, whatever, the size of a room. Stop, take the belt out, and flip it around.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're sanding that belt, everything with the belt machine, you go left to right. So the right side of the paper is really doing a lot of the work because, you're stripping. If it's an 8-inch drum, you're probably stripping 4 inches at a time, right? So that first 4 inches of the paper is really strip and finish. The other four is always on bare wood. Now, to get a little extra life out of the paper, that's why I used to like to flip it and then let the left side take the aggressive for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100%. Good call.
One more thing about keeping the belt on the machine, and this really has nothing to do with the paper. It has more to do with the rubber, the drum.
Okay.
Storing that beast overnight, take the tension off of it. Because every once in a while, I'll have a guy tell me he had chatter marks, or we'll get a call and my machine's leaving chatter marks. And what we found is where the paper is on the rubber. Now, you run the machine 8, 10, 12 hours in a day. Well, that rubber gets pretty warm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So now you put the drum away, you leave the drum, you put it out in the truck or you leave it on the job, whatever you leave. But the tension is still on the rubber. So now it's going to cool off overnight. And when it cools off, now, if it's cold, or it doesn't even have to be cold, as long as it cools off, it's going to cool with 2 flat sides. You're going to get, that's what causes a lot of the chatter marks. So you really want to get into the habit of, you want to take a lunch break or coffee break or let it sit overnight. Just release the pressure. Release the pressure. That'll let the rubber come right back to where it wants to go.
Well, and the same with the belts. If we're going to, go get into that as well, I always take the tension off the belts, the sander, the belts on the side of the machine.
Actually, the drive and the vacuum belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those belts, right? They're same thing. They're running hot all day. They're going to expand. And if you don't take the tension off, they're going to stay expanded. And you're going to have to keep adjusting your motor to keep those belts tight, where if you just release the motor at the end of the night, take the tension off of those belts, they'll cool down and go right back to where they are.
Yeah. And by the way, since we're there, take the wheels off the ground as well. If my sander wasn't sanding a floor, then wheels were never touching the ground.
Oh, you're a fancy guy.
Well, that's the way I was taught. So it's just so they don't get a flat spot on the wheel. But it's just too much work to leave anything to chance. And it takes you 5 seconds to turn the machine over. Take the wheels off.
Good call. I don't think I ever got into that habit because the machines that everything that I started with was all steel wheels. Remember everything was steel wheels, man. You could run them down train tracks, man. They were crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Very true.
We never thought about anything going out of whack.
Nope. You can if you're worried about chatter and those type of things, the belts make a big difference. A lot of things can lead into that. We're not talking about chatter necessarily in this episode, but it all ties together, right?
I can't stop thinking. I can't stop thinking about that guy in the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if it was a cat, I think you would have treated it much different.
Well, I would have. Yeah.
You would have too.
Would have had more sympathy for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You would have got something to eat, maybe something to drink.
Yeah.
Maybe even take it home.
It's actually quite shocking to look at the back of the boat and see a grown man back there hiding. You know what?
I wish you had taken a picture of it. That could have been
something?
We could have posted a picture. That would have been a good one.
I took out my camera to take a picture of them, but then it felt kind of exploitive or whatever. You know what I mean? To put it on, to put it, I don't know. It just didn't feel right. He's a human being. He's got problems. So, but is what it is. Obviously, I think he had a drug problem. So Bono's sandpaper is not like sandpaper, like a rental paper sand that you get from a rental store. There's no wild grits and everything. You want to kind of talk about
Yeah,
that?
that's some of the cool things. Not, and we both learned this over the years. Not all sandpaper is created equal, And one of the things about Bona paper is it is specifically made for floor sanding. Okay, you're not going to find our sandpaper, Bona sandpaper, in any other industries, And we have partnered up with a company called Bona Abrasives out of Switzerland, and we actually have a wood floor laboratory there. So everything that we do is designed for the Bona equipment. But I shouldn't say Bona equipment. It's for the equipment that we're using today versus what the old timers like you and like. I go back to the steel wheels, right? Like those machines didn't have, they had about half of the head pressure that we have now, and the RPMs weren't near as much as we have now. So with less RPMs, less head pressure, or let me put it another way, with all that much more head pressure and RPMs, we've quadrupled the friction. So when you quadruple the friction, we just couldn't use the old time sandpaper. That's why you see different colors, different grades, different things like that. But just like you said, because it is made for the wood floor industry, we had to go with tighter tolerances. And especially nowadays with what everybody's dealing with, everybody's heard me joke about this, the old 40/80 satin poly days and bad lighting are gone. Everybody sees everything now, everything that the guys are dealing with, color, texture, sheen levels, all that stuff. So you can't have any crazy 50 grits floating around in your 80 grit because they're going to put a scratch in there and you don't know how it got there. So that's why we say that it's a step above the rental store type papers.
It's a Cadillac, and I'll tell you the reason. The way you can see this the most, I think, is sanding a maple floor with a generic sandpaper, like a lesser brand sandpaper, where you have a consistent scratches, but then you see wild scratches in the sanding. If you put a halogen light to it or look at it closely, and I'm not talking about you hit a nail somewhere. I'm talking about you can just look through the sanding, and you can see microscopically that you'll have some errant sander marks in there. You know what I mean? And today's standard, I mean, it's not something no one would want to get away with, but you can't get away with those anymore today.
Right.
I mean, people are now looking for tabletop finishes, and you take a species like a maple, you know what I mean, that is very clear and blonde, you can see right through it. It matters. Even in your poly jobs on an oak floor, and you see that it's a bad look. I mean, you work too hard to have to get that look.
Well, I'm glad you touched on the maple deal because with our paper, you got really, I mean, 4 key ingredients to paper, sandpaper. You have the mineral, you have the paper, and then you have the adhesive. Okay. But there's one more thing that they put on there. It's called size coating. Okay. So when the mineral drops on top of the glue, okay, we also add size coating to that. So that keeps the mineral from, diving down too deep. And that's one of the differences between Bona paper and other companies' paper is we put a little extra size coating on there. So just like we were talking about with maple is one of the toughest jobs to sand because it's one of the toughest jobs to remove deep scratches, So if you're, say, using a 36 grit, you're going to get 36 grit, aggressive cut, remove and finish, whatever, but you're also going to get an aggressive deep cut. So by putting on extra size coating, it allows you to use the paper to get aggressive, to remove, finishes, waxes, whatever. You can get aggressive, but the Bona paper won't leave as an aggressive depth of scratch. So those scratches will come out a little bit easier with subsequent cuts.
Since you're going down that road, can you also talk about fracturing, the sandpaper fracturing to stay sharper, longer? Kind of go down
Yes.
that. Yeah, explain that if you would.
Wow, this is all about me today, huh?
You're the sandpaper guru, man. I mean, I've seen enough classes that this is up your alley.
This is something. All
You feel
right.
good, huh?
Huh?
You feel good, huh?
Oh, you know what? I think maybe you should be sick more often. I become part of the show.
Yeah.
And not just, comic sidekick relief, quirky comic relief, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about fracturing. Well, go ahead.
You'll change the act altogether.
No way. Oh,
Yeah.
no way. No. You know the deal with me, man. I'm a counterpuncher.
Yeah.
I'm a counterpuncher. You got to lay it out, and then I can, hit back and have some fun. Interrupt you.
Yeah. It would almost be like Jerry Lewis being the good-looking straight guy, and Dean Martin being a clown. But I'm enjoying this.
I don't know how to take that. So I'm a clown, and you're the good-looking guy. I think that's what you were going with there.
Well, that
you know
doesn't
what?
fit. Listen, you don't even have to go there.
I want to take a little walk down that. Okay.
When you broke that down like that, it didn't fit right. So
you're Dean, get all the girls, and I'm Jerry.
I never said that.
With the funny looking faces and stuff. Yeah. You know what's funny is there's maybe 5 listeners out there who know who Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis are, I hope. So
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. You guys might have to Google that.
Have you ever seen the movie The King of Comedy?
Scary movie.
That is a great movie.
Wasn't that movie kind of spooky though?
Totally. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's Jerry Lee Lewis.
No, not Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis. I mean, yeah.
Jerry Lewis and Robert De Niro.
Yes, Robert De Niro. Oh my gosh, that's a good movie.
And who would ever think those two would be in a movie? Just think of what we said. Jerry Lewis and Robert De Niro in the same movie, and it was an awesome movie. Who was the girl? Sandra Bernhard.
And I loved her, man. She was I wonder whatever happened to her. She was a great actress.
She was insane.
Yeah, that's what I liked about her.
She was insane. Yeah. If you watch that movie, I bet they didn't write a line for her. I bet she just ad-libbed everything.
Yeah. I actually think that was Jerry Lewis's best movie he's ever been in. And you have to, if you have not seen that movie, you've got to watch King of Comedy. It holds up today. It's a phenomenal movie. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. You could put that movie in any year. 60s, 70s, 80s, right? You can do that anytime.
Especially now, because all the movies suck now. Movies are absolutely terrible. I just did see Top Gun, though. I did enjoy Top Gun. I
was just going to ask you. It's been coming up in a lot of the schools I've been doing. Everybody absolutely loved Top Gun.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a good movie. The dude just does not get any older. That's just, it's crazy. He does not age.
Now, what about Iceman? I heard Iceman didn't look too good in that movie.
No, he was a bit of a, he was the only downside. He didn't do anything for me, but the movie was good.
He didn't age well, I heard.
No. But, well, you're comparing him against a guy that doesn't age, so it's not really even fair. Yeah. So, okay. I digress.
fracturing. I think you wanted me to talk about fracturing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the old days, you'd start out, okay, with a nice sharp mineral. And then as you sanded the floor, that mineral would just start to get kind of dull. And it would just dull to a certain point where you were just kind of wasting time. And you take the paper off, throw it away, do whatever. With the new machines and all that extra friction, okay, that old mineral just dulled out too quick. We were just burning them up too fast. The old mineral couldn't keep up with the new mineral. So we had to go with some new minerals, zirconia, ceramic, the aluminum oxide. Okay, we had to go with new minerals. And the thing about a new mineral is you start off with a nice, sharp cutting edge. Okay. And then instead of getting dull, it kind of fractures like that. So now I went from one cutting blade to two cutting blades. And then it kind of fractures again. So now you go to four cutting blades. So that fracturing keeps the paper sharper longer, and eventually it can only fracture so many times. And then, of course, it'll start to get dull and you're done with it. But that's the whole idea behind fracturing, is we needed a new mineral that could keep up with the new equipment and the amount of pressure and what was I saying before?
I don't know. I stopped paying attention when you first
Yeah, I
started.
could tell you kind of faded out there. The amount of friction, okay, like I said, we've quadrupled the friction. So that fracturing that happens from one cutting blade to two to four, that fracturing keeps the paper staying sharper, longer, and that's really the whole story about fracturing. And I can tell you're just so happy that
Well, I was
now you know
no.
about the fracturing deal.
Oh, as you were saying that, and you mentioned aluminum oxide, I was thinking to myself, I think it was like the third hardest substance known to man, or something like that.
Aluminum oxide was?
Yeah.
No idea.
Do you know what the fourth hardest substance is?
I don't know. What? Is this a joke?
This. My forearms. Yeah. No, sorry. Okay. One thing you hear sometimes, Rob, is okay, the sandpaper is more expensive than it used to be, and I think there's two sides to that as well. If you look at like our diamond disc, if you look at how long these sandpaper last compared to what it was in the past, I mean, you could buy cheaper sandpaper, and even today, cheaper sandpaper, but it doesn't last. It's not cutting. You're not productive. So maybe you can kind of talk about our diamond abrasive
I
too.
when Diamond, I was still in sport when Diamond came out, when Bona brought Diamond to the table. And I remember, I forget who it was, or product management, but they said, yeah, when you're recoating a gym, when you're doing a screen coat on a gym, you can take 3 of these diamond discs and put them on like a peace sign on a double stacked maroon pad, and you can cut about 3,000 feet. 3 discs, 3,000 feet. Now, anybody in the sport world who's done screening coats knows that a screen might go 400 feet aside. A maroon pad will only go 350 feet per side. So half of the pain in the neck about recoating gyms and everything is constantly flipping and laying out and, cases and cases of screens. And now I got 3 diamonds that are going to go 3,000 feet. I was like, that's, don't lie. Don't lie to me. Okay. Anyways, Bum and I take care of this little Catholic school down the road, and they get a 6,000 foot gym. So about 3 months after they told me about this, I said to Bum, I go, oh, they said these things are going to do 3,000 feet. We literally started in the middle of that gym. He went 3,000 feet one way. I went 3,000 feet the other way. So we had a nice, perfect look. Nice, consistent look. That's why I like starting in the middle, going each side. At around 1,500 feet, we stopped and just vacuumed the pads out. A little bit of dust, vacuumed the pads out. and they literally cut to the end of the wall. And we were both like, I can't believe this. I could not believe the cut that we were getting with those diamonds, getting some dust, getting a really good etch into the finish. I mean, completely deglossing the finish. We knew we were getting a really good cut. And it was amazing. I could not believe it. I mean, I was like, I remember calling the PM guy that had told me about him. I'm like, dude, I thought you were a liar. But the kicker, the best part of that job, we put down a coat of 350. And we came back the next day. I just wanted to take a look at the job. We came back the next day, and the custodian said to me, can't go in there, it's still wet. Now we had dropped that coat around 4 o'clock. So this is 16 hours later, and it was perfect drying conditions, no humidity, nothing. I remember looking at Bum going, if this job is still wet, we're in a lot of trouble. We're screwed here, right? It wasn't. It was dry as a bone. Now, gloss finish and everything, yeah, it's always going to look good, but I had never seen a gloss finish job look so good. We had used the 180 diamonds, but what I think was we weren't removing a lot of the old finish. We were just really cleaning it, and getting it ready to accept another coat. So it just gave us so much more build, I think. And that's why this thing looked stunning.
You probably also had dramatically less screen bite in that we would have without using screens.
Right. Exactly. It was, like I said, we just didn't, sometimes you're using screens, that coat kind of soaks in. And sometimes you look at it and go, yeah, I got to put another coat on. This looks a little thirsty. I was amazed at what these diamonds do.
That's when I had a whole new respect for gym contractors. Let me see. Let me think about this for a minute. Let's use maple. Let's put massive lights over top of everything, and let's put gloss on it.
And let's use the shiniest finish we can find. Yeah.
When we first came out with the diamonds, as you know, they went to the floor gym contractors first, and so when I said, "Well, let me sample some," they only had me like 6. I said, "What am I gonna do with these?" But I get out on jobs and I use them, and I knew that's all I had. So then I would take them to the next job and the next job and the next job, and I was, man, this is. And then again, my brothers, everything goes to them first if I want to get some feedback I want, and they just fell in love with them. I mean, that's their go-to. So,
I mean, for sport guys and screening coats, it's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, the trick is to clean the floor with prep. There's no bond breakers, nothing to gum those things up. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Same thing if you use it. Same thing, you're going to use them in between coats. You want to make sure the floor is good and dry. You don't want it to be a little tacky. But in between coats, the other weird part about those diamonds, I mean, you've felt them. When you feel a new screen or a new piece of sandpaper, you feel it's sharp, right? And then you can feel kind of when it dies out. The diamonds, to me, never feel different.
Yeah.
They start acting different, but I can't pick up a diamond and go, oh yeah, this is used, compared to one that, this really isn't used at all. So the key and that's what another thing Bum started to do was use the diamonds on his inner coat abrasion, especially when he saw how much build was left by using those rather than abrading with something else. And so he started doing those, the diamond, like he went to 240 for his inner coat abrasion on water jobs. And, the depth was unbelievable. But the scratch pattern that was left behind, there was nothing there, but the adhesion was fantastic. The thing that he had to do, though, was he had to write exactly like you were talking about with your sanding belts. He would write, 400 feet, 300 feet, knowing that each diamond was going to give him about 1,000 feet.
Yeah. We've said before that, one thing about Bona is we have our products are meant to work with each other. And our philosophy is everything you do should complement what you're going to do next. So when you start out with a sandpaper and if you're in a coat abrasion, that you're not taking off all kinds of products off the floor you just spent when you put on, you get a better build. You don't get this the screen bite that you would get with using screens. And you go to the stain, you're getting a lot of mileage out of the stain. So the sandpaper, the abrasives, the machines, the all the way down the line, the filler, everything is designed to work as a system. And a lot of times when I'm looking at doing comparisons, we're almost over engineered in a lot of categories, certainly in finishes and adhesives and a lot of our products. So, a lot of it's German technology. And SIA is makes a phenomenal product. I know aren't they in the aerospace industry and as well and that different things.
They're in NASA, the BMW. I mean, they're just they're part of the Bosch family, so they're all over the place. Before we cut the show off, I know, like you like me, whatever. You're used to the edges where you used to bolt the paper on, right?
Yeah.
Have you had to go, now that you've been running Bona equipment for a while, have you had to go back and bolt a piece of paper on?
Yeah. Carry that wrench around in your back pocket to do that. And rather than just flip it off, there's no comparison. It just makes your
if
life.
you carried that wrench around on my dad's job, you were going to be sent out to clean the truck. That wrench was never supposed to leave that machine, ever.
No kidding.
Oh, there was a couple of pet peeves, man, and that was one of them. But a few years ago, I told Bum, I go, hey, your mother wants me to sand bedroom. She wants to make an office. Can you drop the equipment off? And, I made a couple of drum cuts. And I jumped on the edger, and I had to take that wrench and bolt paper on. Wayne, you should have heard me crying and complaining like a little sissy boy. Like, I had done that all my life. Never thought anything about it. But then when we made the switch, when I started running the Bona equipment and that hook and loop paper that just tears off and slaps on, oh my God.
No
I
comparison.
know it doesn't sound like much, but I know that you've done it. So what did you think?
Well, what I'm thinking right now is, so if I carried that wrench in my back pocket, your dad would have told me to go sit out in the truck.
Yeah. No. You were never told to go sit in the truck. You were told to go clean the truck. And it wasn't just where the equipment was, too. It was the cab of the truck. When you were sent out to clean the truck, he wanted the whole truck clean.
I would have beat your dad up.
You sure? He was kind of powerful guy. You saw that picture of him I put up for Father's Day on Instagram, right? I mean,
I beat up guys twice his age.
okay.
Yeah.
I bet you have.
All right. So let's break down quickly our paper, the different colors of our paper. The black, the blue, the green.
All right. Well, the black paper is silicon carbide. All right. Now, even though it's kind of the older mineral, we still like using the silicon carbide as a final cut. Like in all the schools, we've been showing people the silicon carbide, a 120 on a multi-disc just leaves just such a beautiful burnished floor, and not burnished in the bad way, burnished in the good way, where we close off the grain, give us a little more flow and level time with water-based sealers and everything. Just a completely different look than you get with a screen. It's just more forgiving with the sealer.
I know I keep going back to maple, but this is 100% where I would use on maple floors my last cut every time.
Soft. Yes, it's a
Soft.
nice, soft cut. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Blue.
The blue paper. That's a blend. Now, some of the papers, okay, you can't just use straight ceramic or straight zirconia or anything. It's a little aggressive. So our blue is a mixture of silicon carbide and zirconia. So we get a good cut, a nice cut, all right? and it's not too aggressive. This is one of the papers, and I used to say this until I really started doing a lot of schools down in Jersey, where if you just wanted to pick one paper color for your crew, start to finish, I always said blue. And then for the past couple of years, everybody in New Jersey and New York Metro, it's just like green is completely taken over. Okay. Now the green paper, that's aluminum oxide and ceramic. So the ceramic is even going to last a little bit longer than the zirconia. And this is where you just don't look at the price of a belt. Price per belt is not the deal that you're looking for. If you want to judge how good the sandpaper is or how good it is, how you want to use it, you look at how much the belt costs depending on how far it goes. When I was in the sport world, man, we won every battle, hands down. Cost wasn't the thing. Well, that's what we would tell you. We would go in, tell the sport guy, because it's, you got a 14,000-foot gym. So it was really easy to go in there, tell them, you load paper on, you load whatever you're using, see how far you go. Now load mine on, and it was usually green. Load my paper on there, see how far you go, and then do the square foot price test. We won every single time.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is when we talk about cost. It's the same thing as my world is adhesive, so I have to relate it to that. You don't look at the cost of the pail, you look at how many square feet you get out of the pail, right? When you're determining cost. And we look at sandpaper at the counter. Yeah, if one is 30% cheaper, but it doesn't go nowhere near as far, well, is that really a bargain? And if it's not cutting, if you're using the paper because, it's starting to not cut as good, but, I want to go farther with the belt, then it's not a value, right?
Right. Yeah, so that's it. That's perfect. You just can't look at the price of the belt. It's how far that belt goes compared to the price. That's what you're looking at. And you're right. It's the same thing with the adhesive. The other paper that is just insane is platinum. Have you ever used the platinum? I mean, needed to use it?
I was still a territory manager when it came out, and holy smokes, it's that this is your, like your break the glass, get out the fire extinguisher paper.
That's it. That's what I tell everybody in the classes. This paper is break glass in case of emergency paper.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, Mirage came out with like the first aluminum oxide finished floors, and they put a ton of aluminum in these floors. Okay. That's actually why one of the reasons that the prep system was invented. So, because you couldn't screen those floors.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with the prep so we could soften that, clean it, soften the finish, and then we could abrade it. These aluminum oxides were so hard. Well, now these aluminum oxide floors, it's been 20 years. We're starting to see a lot of these floors need to be sanded. And I'm seeing it in every single class where everybody's like, oh my God, this stuff they can't believe it. You've probably sanded them. You put the drum down, you almost think there's something wrong with your paper or your machine. It's just putting little scratches in the floor. It's not taking anything away.
That's because it's like the third hardest substance known to man.
And the fourth? What was the fourth? The fourth. Wayne's forearms. Exactly. Yeah. So remember, we used to tell people before the platinum, we used to tell people, back off on the pressure of your head, put an 80 grit on there, run around, scratch all the aluminum bits off, then go back with a 40 or 36 or whatever, and now you can sand the floor. So you had to make 2 passes. Now, this stuff, you just put this on. This stuff cuts through that. This cuts through like butter.
Yep. So one reason for doing the show too is expectations. If you're buying black paper and you're going to use it for your first pass on aluminum oxide, it's the wrong paper, right?
Yeah.
It's every paper has its place. Yet, would I want to go green all the way through? Some people do. They're going to use the power drive next. Doesn't matter. But some people are going to want to start with an aggressive paper and work their way down to a less aggressive paper, where the black is a perfectly great candidate for that when you're doing your final cuts. So just managing your expectations. Look at the price of the amount of square foot you get out of a belt, and also the quality of the belts, the backing, the whole 9 yards, the sizing, as you said. I mean, all that plays into it. It's just sure you can go out there and you can get a cheap sandpaper where none of those things are taken into consideration, and then you get what you pay for. But it's funny thing about this wood flooring industry is, like you said, everything you do should set you up for the next step. You don't want to have to go. You don't want to go backwards. Uh, it's great to get together with my brothers once in a while. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but on the next show. But I was talking to my brother John. We were talking about how hard it used to be back in the day because we hand sanded with 60 grit. I mean, we did. So for miles and miles, and then we edged the floor. Then we would hand sand with 60 grit. We wouldn't even think of. I mean, a guy comes to the job and said, "Why don't we use an oscillating sander?" We go, "Get the hell out of here." It's not how it's done. Everything had to be hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know that feeling? You ever get that feeling when you're staining a floor and a third of the way through it, you're seeing something you don't like? Like in the old days, it was chatter. Like we get a little bit of way through it. I think I see chatter. Remember those days? I think I see a little bit of chatter.
Yeah. And I'd say, thank God I'm using satin because it'll hide all that. Where it did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those concerns, man. This industry is a lot easier than it used to be. We're going to talk about that in our next show about the way the industry changing, getting into the industry right now. So we'll save that for the next episode.
All right.
However, let's wrap this up, Rob. Thank you very much, Rob. I love. You know what? I give you a hard time as friends do, but I love the amount of knowledge you have, man. It's crazy when I have a question, you're my go-to guy when the other 10 guys aren't around. Okay, let's put another episode.
Wait. Hold on. I'm glad you just said that. Okay, because my buddy, my old partner, my best friend in the world, Pete Sherman. He's been listening to the show. Okay. And him and I were at my brother's kid's graduation party last week. And he was talking about different shows and how funny they were. And, he loved And he goes, this Wayne, though, he's kind of mean to you.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I said, you really think so? I go, really? It's just kind of, joking back and forth and everything. He goes, no, I think he's really mean to you. I go, well, in the beginning of the the first.
Let's go to episode 1.
The first year, I said everybody thought I was the mean guy, but I said I completely agree with you, Pete. He's definitely been, first strike now. So listen, if someday some guy walks up to you and he's got the foo and glasses and bald and just decks you, I just want you to know that was him. Yeah.
So he's your best friend in the world, you say?
He's one of my best friends in the world.
No, that's not what you said. You said he was your best friend.
Okay.
Let me ask you something. What's his name again? Pete?
Pete Sherman.
Yeah. Pete.
Did you see the article about us? About the van?
No.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
All right.
Your best friend, Pete Sherman, did he get you a custom made ice cream scooper for $75? I don't think so.
No.
But, yeah. So there you go.
No, he
Pete.
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't.
All right.
But I will tell you what he gave me for Christmas one year. He went through and found every old picture, because our families used to do a lot together, go on vacations and, kids and all this. Well, he went through and put together pictures of him and I working since high school all the way up to married and kids. And so as you're flipping through this is your life book. All I was doing as I'm flipping through this was thinking, I think I got him a subscription to Mad Magazine or something for Christmas this year. And this guy's, got Pauline in tears, so I'm like, all right, dude, you definitely win. But it was definitely no ice cream scoop.
Yeah. Right. You can't eat that. Right. All right. Well, thank you, Rob, very much. And this has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. Please stay tuned for another episode.